All right, so today we're gonna be going over the kettlebell deadlift. This is a really awesome exercise as it works on a lot of different muscles. Actually, it's gonna be working on pretty much all the muscles located on the back side of the body. Everything from your ankles all the way up to your neck. Though it's more primarily gonna be focusing on the hamstrings, the glutes, the hip muscles, as well as your low to mid back. It's also gonna have quite an effect on your grip strength as well. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in this movement. And for that reason, I love to include it in a lot of my workout plans, especially towards beginners. Now to get set up with the kettlebell deadlift, I'm gonna position myself to where the kettlebell is directly between my feet. Now for my feet, I like to have them about hip width apart. I also like to have my toes pointed forward, though if they are pointed outward a little bit, it ain't the end of the world. It's not gonna make any difference. I'm gonna get myself set up here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my hips and I'm gonna slide them back. Now, one mistake I do see a lot of people make with deadlift is they excessively bend their knees, causing them to go down into more of a squat. Now, this is okay, but that's not what we're focusing on today. We wanna get as much hip movement involvement as we can. So I'm gonna stand nice and tall. I'm gonna take my butt, slide it back. And from here, I'm gonna take my hands, grab that kettlebell. After I grab the kettlebell, I wanna actually anchor myself into the ground. So I'm not gonna pull up just yet. I'm gonna pull myself into the ground, securing myself. From there, I'm gonna take a huge breath in with my diaphragm. And then once I'm locked in, I'm going to exhale while pressing my feet through the floor and squeezing my butt forward. So I'm gonna get myself set up here, poking my butt back, eyes up. Now you can see right here, I'm now anchoring myself. I'm now gonna take that big breath in. Now that I'm nice and tight. From there, I press my feet hard into the ground. I squeeze the hell out of my butt and I exhaled all of that air. From here, as I go down, I'm gonna take a big breath in and I'm gonna stick my butt as far back as I can. Nice and locked in. I'll do a third rep. Fourth. And fifth. A common mistake I see a lot of people make, especially first-time lifters, is when they do that first rep, it looks really good. Once they get to the top, as soon as they get to the bottom, they fully relax. And then they go to lift the weight up again, their back starts to round. No matter whether you're on the first rep, the second, third, fourth, whatever rep you're on, as soon as you get to the very bottom, you want to stay nice and tight. I want you to pretend there's almost like a trampoline on the floor. And when you come down, as soon as the kettlebell makes impact, you bounce right back up. When you get to the very bottom and you tend to relax, your form is more likely to break down. And because of that, you lose momentum. So when you go into that next rep, you'll see this all the time. People go down, they fully relax, they go lift up, they lost that momentum, their back's rounding. And when your back starts to round, especially that mid to upper back, it's not a guarantee you're gonna hurt yourself, but it does raise the likelihood. We wanna keep that to a minimum. You want to stay super tight, keep yourself anchored, exhale, inhale, and just like so. Now for the deadlift, it does require your ability to get into what's called a hip hinge. And that is your ability to bend your hips back in a horizontal line without having too much knee bend. And for someone who is coming from a more sedentary lifestyle, who's never had to put themselves in that kind of position, believe it or not, it can actually be one of the hardest things to learn. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna showcase 3 different drills to kind of help you get into that hip hinge position. The first one here, what you're gonna need is a foam roller. Now what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna give you a little side view. I'm gonna place my feet hip width apart as if I was gonna do a deadlift. I'm gonna take the foam roller, I'm gonna place it on my upper thigh, and I'm gonna hold it just by my fingertips. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take my legs, especially everything below the knee, and freeze it in place. My shins are not gonna go anywhere. From here, I'm gonna slowly start to poke my butt backwards, and now the foam roller is gonna ride up my arm. I'm gonna poke it back, poke it back, poke it back, and the goal here is to try to get the foam roller just below the knee without letting your back round. Once you get there, you'll see now I'm in a perfect hip hinge position. Now I'm going to slowly straighten out. I'm squeezing my butt. I'm straightening out my body. Now from here, I'm going to walk my fingertips on the foam roller. That way it doesn't drop on the ground. And now I'm back to the starting position. I recommend doing anywhere between, let's say, 4 to 10 reps just before your set if you're a beginner, just to kind of get that hip hinge movement pattern kind of honed in. The second drill I'm going to show you is a little bit more entry level, as in you don't need any piece of equipment. And this is going to come in the form of a cat camel, of which is an amazing exercise for the T-spine that you'll normally see in yoga. Now for the cat camel, you're going to get into a quadruped position. I'm just going to move this real quick. I'm going to get into a quadruped position, so on my hands and knees. And from here, I'm going to enter the camel position. And that is just going to be me tucking in my butt, arching my back as much as I can. Now this is the important part. I'm now going to go into the cat. I'm going to slide my hips back, relax my upper back, and I'm going to look up with my eyes. I'm now going to go back into the camel. Now the reason why I'm showing you this movement is when you go into the cat, when you slide your hips back, pay attention to my hips. I'm going from a posterior pelvic tilt, meaning my pelvis is tilted inward, to now an anterior pelvic tilt. Now it's tilted outward. I'm going in for the camel, and I'm going out for the cat. When you're doing a deadlift, when you're going into that hip hinge, you're taking your hips and you're sliding them back as if you're doing the cat pose. Now the third drill I'm going to teach you is a hip hinge with a pipe. Now, if you don't have a lightweight bar or a PVC pipe, you can easily do the same thing with a broomstick at home. Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to place my feet about hip width apart, toes pointed forward, and I'm going to take this pipe and I'm going to circle it around my body, and I'm going to make 3 points of contact: my butt, my shoulder blades, and the back of my skull. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to bend over with as minimal of a knee bend as possible. And the goal is to try to get my chest as low to the ground as I can without losing any of the 3 points of contact. So I'm gonna get set up here. I'm gonna hold the pipe, low back, upper back, back of the skull, feet hip width apart. And now I'm gonna slide my hips back, point my butt back like the cat pose. I'm gonna get as low as I can without losing any of the 3 points. I should be able to let go of the pipe and it should not go anywhere. Now, probably the most important aspect of this movement to ensure both its effectiveness and your safety is to have a properly braced core. Now, when I say braced core, what I mean is that things like your abdominals, your obliques, your TVA, your QL, they're all working together to help keep pressure off your spine to avoid possible injury or to avoid any discomfort. For a lot of lifters, especially beginners who are trying to lift heavier loads, not having a braced core is one of the reasons why as soon as they come out of the hole, their mid-back starts to round and they run the risk of hurting themselves. To ensure that your core muscles are working together, I got a little drill for you to practice with me. What I want you to do is I want you to take your hand and I want you to place one hand right on your chest. And I want you to place your other hand at the base of your rib cage. Now, what we're looking for here is to breathe with your diaphragm. That's a muscle located right at the base of your lungs. Now, I'm going to take this upper hand, place it on my chest, bottom hand at the bottom of my rib cage, and whenever I take a breath in, I want to push that bottom hand out, and that top hand should not move one bit. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. One more time. I'm going to breathe in and I'm going to exhale. Now, the reason why we want to focus on diaphragmatic breathing versus chest breathing is when you breathe in with your diaphragm, that's going to make it a lot easier for those core muscles to activate. And that's going to create a lot of pressure inside your abdominal cavity. And that pressure is gonna act like a pillow for your spine, keeping pressure off of it, keeping possible pain at bay. Now, if standing up and doing that drill is too hard for you, you can regress that by lying flat on the ground. What you're gonna do is you're gonna grab a small weight, nothing too heavy. I got a 6-pound dumbbell right here. That should be more than enough weight for the majority of people. I actually probably recommend someone who's just doing this for the first time, probably do like a 2 or 3 pound weight, or you can grab a couple books, anything that adds a little bit of weight. So I'm gonna get on my back. I'm gonna lay flat on my back. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place this weight at the base of my rib cage. I'm gonna place one hand on my chest. I'm gonna rest this on the base of my rib cage. And that, just like before, with every breath, I'm gonna try to press outward with my midsection without letting my top hand move. So I'm gonna take a breath in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Whenever you go to breathe in on an exercise, whether it's a deadlift, a squat, a lunge, or a bench press, when you breathe in, I want you to try to create as much tightness in the skin in your midsection as you can. When you breathe in, you're trying to create as much internal pressure inside your abdominal cavity. And when you exhale, I want it to be a nice, sharp, but smooth release of pressure. So once again, we're gonna go over the movement. I'll give you a quick side view. I'm gonna place my feet about hip width apart, toes pointed forward. Weight will be directly between my feet. After practicing the drills, whether it's the cat camel or the foam roller or the kind of PVC pipe drill, up to you. I'm gonna slide my butt back. I'm gonna pull myself into the ground, take a massive breath in diaphragmatically. And now I'm gonna exhale as I press my feet. All right, if you found this video helpful, I highly recommend giving me a subscribe. Yeah, hope you have a great day.